Hello, 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 and welcome to another day, another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim with me. Tim, how are you doing? As he fixes his camera.
Right, with mine, I've got my mic here, but I hadn't plugged it in.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
I'm good, all good. Can't complain. Yeah, all good.
Yes, I think it's sunny in both parts of the world. Last week it was wet in Joburg, and then so I think the world has equalized, right? But we've had a lot of things that have happened this week, and we're going to talk about that. The Proteas started their Champions Trophy campaign, as well as we're going to be talking about the One Day Cup, as that's heating up a little bit, and we have a first sighting of this season's promotion relegation table. So we're excited to show that to you and talk about that. So we've got a lot on the go. But remember, please follow us on the Full Quota Pod on X. Subscribe to the Full Quota Podcast YouTube channel. Please follow us on at the Full Quota Pod on Instagram as well as follow us, subscribe to the podcast, the audio version on Apple Podcast and Spotify at Full Quota Podcast. And if you're on YouTube right now, please like and subscribe. It's somewhere there on the bottom. It's red. Just click on it, and you'll be notified when we go live. We normally do have Monday podcasts, just a review of what's going on in the weekend, and then we'll normally just have an extra podcast in the week, or normally an interview or something important that has happened. For instance, if South Africa win a tournament, we'll have an emergency podcast that I can guarantee you. And that's that. But most importantly, the next one is please please help us buy some coffee. It helps keep us alive and up on these streets for you to see us every week. And we appreciate any and every contribution at buymeacoffee.com/Full Quota Podcast. It's been an interesting week, Tim. And we started our Champions Trophy campaign with a bang. A little bit of uncertainty, but it ended up being a bang and a convincing win. South Africa beating Afghanistan by 107 runs. It was the Ryan Rickleton show who came in for, well, we assume he did, for Heinrich Klaassen, took the keeping gloves and scored 103. Tema Bavuma scoring 58 in that game. And then Kagiso Rabada taking 3 for 36, with Vian Mulder 2 for 36. The bowlers bowled really, really well. But fundamentally, in a game where there was no Heinrich Klaassen, Tim, the Proteas came through. We still have our apprehensions, but it was a good way to start a tournament against a team we traditionally would struggle against.
Yes, I think a lot of boxes were ticked in this particular encounter. Team contributions for the bat. Ryan Rickleton in absolute purple form, just in the form of his life. The rock of the side, Russell we spoke about last week, scoring important runs, just steadying the ship, putting us into a position where we could score over 300. There was no mini order collapse, which we have seen in recent times. Markham was in the runs and played really well. I think particularly the batting is the most impressive. We will get into, I think, later on in terms of whether the score we made will be more than enough for other higher opposition, because that may not be the case. But in this particular game, it was enough. And I thought in the opening power play, we bowled really well. And that set us on the trajectory to what was a relatively easy, which was a very easy victory for us. And I feel excited also where we want them to be. So I think all in all, there were no obvious nerves. A good performance in your first game.
Look, it was an A performance, right? And I think with the bowling, you saw that obviously quieting Gurbaz, quieting Zadran, even Atal, and that Afghanistan batting lineup, just keeping them silent with Lungi, Marco, and Kagiso. leading that line was really impressive to see. I think for me, from a batting perspective, I loved the partnership that Ryan had with Timber of about 120 or 220 odd, and it was like they're playing for the Lions, which was what we liked, right? And they dovetailed each other so well, and it was good to see Timber in the runs, which is important for us. And then Ryan's innings kind of laid the foundation for Rassie and also Aiden. I thought the Afghanistan spinners would put us in a lot more trouble up front, but knowing how well Timber plays spin and the purple patch Ryan was in, it was just one of those situations where you sat there going, okay, so today is going to be one of those days where we actually show our dominance over Afghanistan. The one thing that I was impressed by was Markram in the back end, 52 of 36, really, really good innings. I think he scored 12 50s in the last, I don't know, ODIs, however many, but he's got the most half centuries of anyone in the world since like 2022 in ODI cricket. So he's enjoying his purple patch, his time here in ODI cricket. And my only problem was I was thinking about this team. I was like, we're struggling to get Rickleton into the team. We're struggling to get Stubbs into the team. And we're still are this strong from a batting perspective. So it's good stuff for Rob. The only problem is, Tim, as he goes away, he should be back soon.
I'm back.
The only problem we have, Tim, is the Heinrich Klaasen injury, right? When Heinrich comes in, who comes out of this team? Is it Tony Jazorzi? Is it Ryan? Ryan seemingly batting his way in. His CV is filled. T20, ODIs, test matches, his CV is filled, and all he's asking for is for someone to make him a regular starter in the team. Who comes in for Heinrich if he's fit? Who comes out?
It's really unfortunate. Yeah, who comes out. It's really unfortunate because he made the runs of the warm-up game, which we felt was his audition. He made the 50 in the warm-up game. And when we spoke about the preview to the Afghan game, we basically said that Ryan was going to sit this one out. Ryan was not going to start the tournament. It was going to be Tony and Timber at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the manner of his performance, because of the way he went about it, not just the fact that he scored a century, but the calmness and the assuredness of the manner and the way that he went about it, you can't be dropping Ryan. So Ryan is now going to be in that 11. So Tony is going to have to be the one that's been dropped. Klaasen's record is absolutely exceptional. His record against spin is exceptional. He's averaging over 57 and a strike rate of over 125. He has a very favourable record against Alam Zampa, who he will probably be playing tomorrow. So everything is centred around him coming in because his record against Australia is also exceptional. He averages over 50 against Australia. So Klaasen,
and to a certain extent, Tim,
comes in. Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I think Heinrich guarantees you a minimum 300 score, right? We spoke about 315 and we thought, will it be enough? England and Australia put up 350 plus 350. I think their bowling attacks aren't that great. So I expected 350. Yeah, especially for England playing against Australia because we didn't know what this Australian bowling lineup was. And we somehow found out England are still back to their iconic ways of picking bowlers whose primary job is bowling, but they don't do it that well. They want these bits and bobs. I can bat two, I can bowl two, I can be explosive with the bat type of bowler. And now they're finding themselves in a little bit of a situation, especially in that chase against Australia. And the way I see this tournament is minimum 300 on the board as a first inning score. Yes, we can haggle about 315, 310, 350. We can haggle about that. But you need to get yourself over that 300 line to make yourself competitive. Because what I saw, Tim, on the other side, is our bowling attack is probably the second best in this tournament. I see New Zealand. I think they're underrated, but we can argue between us and New Zealand as 2 and 3. But obviously, India is currently the best bowling attack in the world, and so at this tournament. So my thinking is that especially because it's a shortened tournament, Klaasen has to come in. He's your banker. He's always been the banker, and that was the worry when he wasn't playing. It was who's going to step up and help us. In this case, it was Ryan Rickleton. David Miller couldn't help us. Obviously, David has a long CV of saving us. This time he couldn't, but everyone else pitched up and put up their hands. So I'm happy with that. It's a short tournament. If I'm Rob, I'm telling players they mustn't feel anything into it. We need to win 3 games, and we need to get into that semi-final and hopefully into the final. But we need guys who are on form and guys who can produce now. And Heinrich is that guy. Even though you can tell me SA20, the back end of SA20, he started coming back to his old self. So I think for me, Tim, that's the one key thing, because I thought we should have gotten to 350. If you saw the start that we got with the wickets in hand that we had, you cannot finish at 315. And yes, Afghanistan bowled a lot better to the back end of that innings, but you had them in a hole and you could have put them away. And we just didn't towards the back end. It wasn't normally when you expect an ODI, you build up on your momentum. You go from batting at 4s to batting at 6s to batting at 8s, and then finally, hopefully, if you can break it to 10s, that takes you to 350. And we just couldn't get there in the back end there. But I'm not mad. I'm just slightly it was a disappointment, because I thought if Afghanistan were to live up to the hype, they could have gotten 315. I thought it was below par, but as a function of we lost our best player, our best batter in Heinrich Klaasen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of these white ball series passed me by. So I was researching for today's podcast. 18 months ago, we made 416 against this Australian team. 416 in Centurion, in an attack that included Thorenes and Hazelwood, a bowling attack. Both those guys are not going to be here. I'd argue that they are weaker. They've got a weaker bowling attack. And the pitch on that day was Centurion. The pitch tomorrow, from what everybody is saying, is it's going to be as flat as a pancake, and it's an open road. So there are runs out there. If we're batting first and we don't make 350, I think we're in trouble. I think we are in real trouble, because as much as I don't rate this Australian bowling attack, I do rate this Australian batting lineup. I do think it showed against that England setup that it can lose Smith for nothing and Marnus for nothing and still make 350. That tells me something about their ability with the bat.
Yeah, and I'm more worried about Australia's batting, but I look at that game against England and I sit there going, I don't think we'll need to get to 350, but I want us to get there, because in my head, when I look at our group and I look at the other group, 350 will help us beat New Zealand and England and India. It's not going we getting 320, 310 could help us against Australia, because I think our bowling attack can make early inroads against Australia. Yes, there's one person I'm worried about, and we're going to talk about them now, but the way in which this Australia game that I see, since we've moved to the Australia game now, is it's going to come down to who bowls better. Because I think from a batting perspective, I think both batting lineups are equal, regardless of the South African personnel that you have there, right? You can put in bloody Tristan Stubbs, you can put in Tony DeZorzi, you can put in Ryan Rickleton. Whoever of the 8 batters that are in Pakistan, whatever configuration is there, comes out. I think it's just as equal as Australia. My only thing is the difference between the two sides will be in the bowling. And when I looked at the bowling against Afghanistan, that's the dominance I wanted to see. That's the pressure you want to put them down. That's the be the first to land the punch, as Enoch always says. And he said in our podcast earlier this year, or late last year, was you want to land the first punch. That was a great bowling performance. Kagiso and Marco are bowling like they are sitting in the middle of their prime. Whatever happened in strength and conditioning for Marco is amazing, but I don't know why the others aren't like this, because everyone else is injured, even though they have come out of strength and conditioning. So that's another story for another day. My only worry is Lungi. Vian, to a certain extent, is always a worry because you just never know which Vian you're going to get. But based on the evidence of what's happened now and also in the tri-series, I do think this bowling 5 will get us home. My only worry, actually I have 2 worries. It's Lungi and it's Aiden. And Lungi's bowled better than what he's bowled in the tri-series. So you can see that there's improvements. And I was happy with that, right? The only issue I have is he could be considered our weak link. But what we're doing and what Timber's doing is they're putting Lungi in positions to succeed. He's bowling up front at the top with the new ball, getting himself a couple of overs under his belt. The only problem is what you do in the middle overs and what you do on the back end, right? But if one of our bowlers gets attacked, our 6 bowlers, Aiden Markram. If I'm Australia, I'm trying to get Aiden to bowl at least 5 overs at me. At least 5. Ball's not turning much in Pakistan. Spinners aren't winning much unless if you're Kuldeep Yadav and maybe Michael Bracewell, but those wickets are largely out of mistakes. But I'm very worried about if we need to use a 6 bowler. And everyone says, yeah, no, Aiden's fine, and that's okay. Our gamble is different to everyone else's. Our gamble is these 5 need to take us home. Are we okay with bowling first and having to chase 300? That's my only worry. I think this team can set like it's always done with less pressure, but in defense, we're going to need these bowlers to help us restrict them to 280. And that's how I think this game's going to go, and that's why I think we could possibly do that. On the other side, when I look at Australia, I see Dwarshes, or Durases, whatever his name is, Broadhouse. I'm not scared. Spencer Johnson, yes. He's Nathan Ellis, yes. But then you've got Zampa, Maxwell, and who else?
Head.
Travis Head. That is potentially 20 to 25 overs of Adam Zampa, who you should respect, but not in this tournament. And he's not the old Adam Zampa. Labaskachny, Head, and Maxwell. There's no reason why we cannot go at upwards of 8 with those 4 bowlers, because England have done this as well. They've gambled on having batters at 7, 8, and 9, 6, 7, and 8. Bowlers who bat a bit, or batters who bowl a bit. England's done this too. You should be able to attack these guys, put them away. From a South African perspective, for them, if one guy doesn't work out, you can chop and change, you can throw people in and do that. But you need to consistently be attacking them as though they're one bowler. Right? But if we don't take advantage of that, you bring Australia's batting into the game. Right? And as you say, Tim, yes, if we should be able to put 350, I think 320 would be enough with our bowling attack. Even with my worry with Lungi. And the great thing is the fact I'm happy that my worry is Lungi. And it's not Vian. And it's not Keshav. That tells you how far this team has gone. And that tells you, it makes you question why this team hasn't won an ICC tournament. But that's how I see Australia. I'm like, I see the batting fine. They can explode. But my word, there's no way they can defend any total against any of our top 8 batters with that bowling lineup.
which is
If you want
why
to put them under pressure, you can put Spencer Johnson under pressure up front if you wanted to.
Yeah,
but I'm even respecting
and
him.
He was expensive against England. He did a couple of wickets, but he was expensive. Which is why I know that they are thinking about going with an extra batter light, going in with an extra bowler. I know that's part of their discussion.
Who, Australia or South Africa?
Australia. They know that their bowling without Cummins and Hazelwood is markedly weaker. They know it is. Everybody knows it is. It's common knowledge. They're not sure whether this bowling attack can go on and win the tournament because of the nature of the pitches being as flat as they are. So they've got Aaron Hardy and Sean Abbott as backup pace bowlers. If I'm them, I'm sticking with the team, but I know that that's part of the discussion because, as you rightly pointed out, Travis Head and if we're getting out Travis Head, Marnus, then and Maxwell, and they're causing problems, then we're only got ourselves to blame. They're useful for, that should not happen. That should happen. The other thing I'd like to touch on, as good as that Australian batting lineup is, if you can do what England did at the initial stages, if you can get rid of Smith, if you can get rid of Marnus early, and if you can bring in Maxi at over 30, make him bat for 20 overs, you are in the driving seat. What you don't want him having to face 60 balls. If he's facing the last 10, he will go. The team will be in a good position to go into fifth gear. If he has to build an innings, it's a completely different kettle of fish. He then has to completely change the way that he plays. It would be a bit like having us build with Marco having to build an innings with somebody like Miller. It would make our job a hell of a lot more difficult. Those are the areas that you need to target. There's part-time bowlers, as you rightly pointed out, but also bringing in the Maxwell, who is a genuine threat, but bringing in as early on in the innings as possible. Make him bat for as long as possible, because then he will have to change the way that they want to use him.
Yeah, I think we've covered 2 points of our in our topics, which was, will 315 be enough? You say no, I say yes. And obviously, who should we fear? One of the last things, obviously, we spoke about Ngidi a little bit, but let's just delve into it a little bit more, right? We know that in SA20, Lungi was in and out of that PAL team. He's had niggles and the like, and to a certain extent, I think his selection was largely because obviously of his experience, but from a fitness perspective, I think they know that there's something there, some little bit of discomfort or whatever, and they're managing it as they go along. And every player plays with injuries, right? And that's what it is, right? But even then, if he isn't injured, he's on his path back into rehabilitation. And also, he hasn't been playing 50 over cricket in the last year, right? He's been missing. Well, not missing, but he wasn't selected in some of the squads, right? And I think the first few squads he was selected in was in the Tri-Series last year. No, not Tri-Series. It was against Afghanistan and Ireland. He went to Dubai and everything else. And you kind of then saw, oh, no, he's slightly off the boil, which is fine. And that's okay. And in the Tri-Series, you kind of got a sense of, okay, this is someone who is kind of wanting to get himself back into form. And we saw with the high economy rates with him, Bosch and Vian and Shamsi, actually, him, Bosch and Shamsi, high economy rates in the Tri-Series, and they were effectively being attacked by any and every batter that could take advantage. Fast forward now, how beautiful is it that she's got Kagiso in there and Marco to kind of ease the pressure off of him? Because to a certain extent, there's a point where you sit there going, Lungi's senior enough to lead an attack, but he's not the strike bowler that he once was, and he's not that type of bowler now in terms of you're going to throw the ball to him to get a wicket. What you do with him is you want him to use the skill to bring that economy rate down, to kind of slow the game down. And in that's where his wickets come. It's not like I'm throwing to Kagiso to bowl at 150 or even Marco, who is a blessing to us right now because he's in a purple patch. I like Lungi in the spot as your third seamer. I like it. And he went for 7 and over against Afghanistan. I don't think we're making much of we're making a mountain out of a molehill, but he's not at where we want him to be, but the trajectory is there. And if we can get to that final, I think we're going to have a front three that's the best in the world in terms of seam bowling in that Champions Trophy final when we play India. If we play India, I think we will play India if we come out. So I'm not worried. I'm just sitting there going, it is a worry because this is not the Lungi that we know. There's a version of this person that actually can bowl, can cause problems in the middle overs. And tomorrow, if we don't take wickets up front, it's going to get exposed.
Yeah, it's a very, very small sample, but just 3 games, so just put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But he averages 61 at an economy over 7 this year. It's not rocket science to say that's the worst of his career. He had a decent 2024, average 27, an economy just over 5. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you're right, he didn't play as much as the others. There were Nichols, there were other guys, there were Nadri Burgers, there was Nokia's around that were being picked ahead of him. So there are many factors in that. But it's been a concern for me for a good 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the T20 format. I've because of the niggles, because of the constant injuries, because of the coming backs that he's had, and when I've seen him, I've thought to myself, can he bowl 10 overs on a consistent basis? Luckily, this is a short tournament. This is only 8 teams, very few games, so it shouldn't be a problem. But going forward, it is a worry for me that I'm a bit concerned that he's not able to do what is required, even though he is number 3 in the lineup, which is right for him right now. You still at that position, you still need to bowl out your 10 more often than not. And we don't want to rely on Markham bowling 8s and 9s, preferably. So I'm a bit concerned, but I'm not going to drop him. I'm just going to stick with him, but I'm just a little bit worried going forward.
So look, and to some extent, the true test for us is these next 2 games, right? You can consider Afghanistan as probably one of the lower ranked teams in the tournament. Bangladesh and them can fight it out for who's at the bottom. The issue I had was always these next 2 games. This week is a crucial week for Rob in getting this team ready to get over the line. The economy rates are going to be higher. I think Lungi's going to hang around the 8s in this game and in the game against England, right? The question obviously is the support that he has from Kagiso, from Marco, in terms of easing the pressure, taking wickets up front, being able to be dominant. Because you don't want to put a man on an island and put a spotlight under him. You don't want that to happen, because when that happens, that's when we start pulling out the Markham card, and that happens. If Aiden bowls 3 or 4 overs, that's fine. I can live with that, right? And I think we all can survive, right? But the problem is, I think Aiden's role is to cover up for when Vian does not. But also the good thing is that Vian is now showing that he can bowl a full set of 10 overs, and he can bowl them well, and he can contain, and he can do the job that he needs to do. So, yeah, I think Lungi's going to bounce back. I think Lungi's going to, as the tournament goes, it's going to be he's going to actually become very integral to this whole thing, and I don't think he's going to be the weak link in the bowling lineup. It just so happens that he is right now, but you won't say that too often. Let's talk about a little bit about England, because I think the next time we pod we'll have played England. Anybody you're worried about in that England team?
I'm terrified of that batting lineup. Absolutely terrified, because that batting lineup I am. They can score anything between 300 and 420. They can make 400. Let's put it that way. That team can make 400.
Can they defend though?
I don't know quite what is going on with the bowling setup. I don't really know what's going wrong. I think Adil Rashid is probably the best leg spinning ODI bowler in the world. I really do think that. Maybe number 2 if you, but he's really, really up there.
Kuldeep wants to have a word, but I get you.
Yeah. I think Biden Cast is very, very going to be very, very important to them going forward. His pace, his bouts, what he's able to get off on those sorts of tracks. I suppose the one issue that I have is they're not getting the best out of Archer. I think that's a large extent. It's a bit like if we were not getting the best out of Lungi, and Lungi was consistently the weak link. It doesn't seem to me that Archer knows what he needs to bowl in this format. He knows what he needs to do in 4 overs, and when he's fit enough to play Test cricket, he understands what is needed there. I don't think he understands, or England don't understand what his role is within that team. Not just him, but I'm just thinking of the game against Australia. It just seemed to me that he was bowling in the slot an awful lot of the time. Nobody was going, hang on, it's a flat wicket, bit shorter, please, just a bit shorter, back of a length. Don't just bowl in the slot, because every time he went in the slot, he was going out the ground. Yeah.
Look, I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of the batting lineup. I know that they've come to South Africa with a team like this before, where it looks like they're power packed. They've got many other things. The only thing that's different is the coach, right? And they can go baseball all they want, but in Mark Boucher's words, it doesn't matter. It doesn't move us. We will still stick to our guns. And I think if we do, because and I look at both Australia and England, and I just sit there going, there's no way this 5-man bowling attack that we have is going to concede 400 runs against these guys, let alone even 350, regardless of how aggressive they can be. And that for me is where it is. And I think the only sucky part about us and where we are in this group, because so here's the thing, right? So if we beat Australia tomorrow, we are in, right? However, if we don't, we then have to beat England. Because if we don't beat England, we end up in a 3-way tie. Assuming everyone beats Afghanistan. But, yeah, assuming everyone beats Afghanistan, well, England and Australia beat Afghanistan, then we end up in a 3-way tie. Then it becomes a net run rate question. And luckily that Afghanistan game helped us. The question obviously is, if I'm England and if I'm Australia, I'm batting first against Afghanistan, and I am doing what Tim was saying he's afraid of. It's going 420. And then I think that might be the thing. It would suck if we got knocked out because of that, but I don't think so. I don't see us losing tomorrow. I really don't. I also don't see us losing on Saturday. But we could if we had qualified and we're taking our foot off the gas. But I think for this Champions Trophy, to get through this Champions Trophy, stay in Pakistan as long as possible, therefore win the group, avoid India, and pray they beat New Zealand on Sunday. and then you go into the semifinals as the 1 seed. You'll play New Zealand, and you can beat New Zealand. And then we then fly to Dubai for the weirdest final in the world, Champions Trophy, Pakistan 2025, but the finals in Dubai against this Indian side. And that's the true test for us. I think these next 2 games are a litmus test of where this team was. Had Australia had one of the 3 that are missing, I'd be leaning towards Australia. But because they lost all 3, Hazelwood, Cummins, and Stark, you are asking yourself, why not us? Why can't we win this game? And that, for me, is very important for us. There's no reason why we shouldn't win tomorrow. There's no reason why we shouldn't win on Saturday. This bowling attack, and I think this is where this tournament's going down to. If you have a better bowling lineup, you can you can bowl in whatever conditions they are, because you know that you're not going to concede an astronomical amount of runs. And we saw that with those 2 teams that were fighting each other on Saturday, Australia and England. The 350 plays 350. Why? Yeah, look at their bowling lineups. We don't have that. We're much better than that. Tim, it was ridiculous. There was no such thing as middle overs in that game.
You're right, because both teams were weak. Australia because of the injuries, England because I don't know why. But
they somehow know how to pick batters, but they just don't know how to pick bowlers. They have thousands of bowlers on that little island of theirs, but they can't find 3 to 4 guys who can bowl 10 overs each at a economy rate of under 7 and take with.
I tell you now. My name misses me. The name. The left-arm spinner for the Sunrisers from England did really well.
Liam Dawson.
Yeah, Liam Dawson. If he's in there with Rashid in this tournament, England's chances go up massively.
Yes.
Yeah. But thankfully they don't.
He's like, yeah, but they don't want to. So I'm not gonna give them our secrets. But there's no reason why we don't come out here going, we've won 3 out of 3, and then we start the whole hope conversation again as Proteas supporters. Could we do this? Is it possible? I'm starting it today. This tournament is very much possible right now. The only worry for me is the teams we meet on the other side of next week, because I think those teams are much better than us.
That group is definitely harder. That's no doubt about it. Definitely okay. Harder.
Good luck to the Proteas. We don't need you to win both games, but if you can beat Australia now, you then effectively put us in a good situation, and then it comes down to us watching how England and Australia play Afghanistan. If you can do that tomorrow, we're easy. We're going to Saturday very easy, but you should beat both teams. If you want to show who you are and the team that you are with a squad that I don't think it's been a while since we've gone to an ICC tournament with a squad like this, where even the bench players can come in and do a job and do it well for you. Outside of the bowling, I think we're 1 injury away from catastrophe in the bowling lineup. If one of those 5 go down, it's a problem. But for now, we're not there. So we're still number 2 bowling attack in the tournament. Okay, let's move to One Day Cup. Let's move to things that are here, that are good. Teams are winning, teams are losing. It's a very nice thing. So in the One Day Cup this week, we've had a lot of games. So I'm just gonna give you all the games. So last week, on Friday and on Saturday, and then we have 2 on Sunday. Sure. So these are the results from Friday and Saturday. The Lions went to Centurion to play the Titans. They scored 309, and they beat the Titans by 4 runs, who set them 295. The Lions set the Titans 300, and the Titans could only get to 295. It was Duckworth Lewis affected. Reza Hendrick scoring 94, Zubair Hamza scoring 68, Cody Yusuf back in the wickets, 4 for 53. But we saw something very special, Tim. We saw a Devil Brevis innings that was, again, telling you that we may have some batting stocks in this team. It's reminding me of 2023 World Cup, where people were complaining that Josh Inglis should have been playing for Australia, and Josh Inglis was like sitting on the bench for the entire tournament. But Devil Brevis is in South Africa. That 72 ball 100 is something you should watch. It was what we thought this boy can be. And boy, did he give them a show.
It did. It was a very impressive innings. Neil Mackenzie, I think it was Neil Mackenzie in commentary, and he made a good point. He said, maybe his trajectory is the way that it's going to go from now on. And actually, it may serve him well going forward. In that, he was in the bright lights very early on, got an IPL contract, made a couple of scores, but didn't do it on a consistent basis. And if you don't do it on a consistent basis, you tend to lose out when on a second contract. Didn't get a second contract, had to come back, had to find his feet again, had to see that there were other avenues to get into where he wants to be. And he's taken that opportunity. He scored runs across 4 formats. He's come back to South African cricket. He scored the runs. He did what is needed. It was a magnificent 100. Absolutely Devil Brevis at his best. 6 hitting at his best. When Devil Brevis is hitting straight, he's as good as anyone in cricket at the moment. He is absolutely exceptional. It's when he wants to play the 360 stuff that he gets a little bit ahead of himself. But
yes,
which is what led to his downfall, and which was led to the Titans losing, because magnificent innings as it was, they did it 60 with 4 wickets in hand with the last 10 overs, with Brevis in on 100. He gets a length ball wide outside the off stump, and he hoiks it. He tries to hoik it over mid-on head. He doesn't get the leverage, doesn't get the timing, gets caught. That changed the game massively. Yes, Titans will say that Matthew Boast's dismissal was a shocker, and it was. The ball literally went along his laces on his shoes. It was a creepy crawly. But
I was shocked.
As Neil Mackenzie said, if you want to get into the national side, the runs are important, but how you get them is more important. That mental ability of closing a game out. That gets you, he said that, he's a former selector. That gets you in the door. That gets you a phone call from Rob saying, right, we're the next camp. So, fantastic innings, but he would have learned that he needed to see out the game. The game was there, and he didn't quite see it out.
And to some extent, that's the issue. That's not the issue. I should stop saying that. But it's what we wanted. And the next ODI camp, he should be there. The next ODI tour, he should be there. There's no reason why he shouldn't be there. The only problem is, who do you drop? Because we're fighting to get Ryan into the side, right? But we forget that there's Ryan, and who else is there? I said 8, right? It's who was benching the last game? I've forgotten who the 8. Tristan. So we've got Ryan and Tristan sitting on the bench, right? You then have Matthew Bretsky, who scored 148. We forget about that. Don't forget about that. Where do they fit in? Do we need to have a SA emerging? Not emerging, but let's have SA. Let's have an SA tour and send them to Australia.
Yeah.
Stubbs, Ricks, Brevis, and start getting those connections that Tom was talking about.
But
I'd be excited.
They said they want to do more A tours. They've said that publicly, Cricket South Africa. Of course, the easy answer is, and it's going to come at some point. And I don't want it to happen. Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it. I'm not asking you to do it. But the easy answer is, at the end of the next T20 World Cup, David says, thanks. Thank you very much. I've got my family now. No, but
David Miller 2027. I'm not entrusting my future to these kids just yet. David Miller, Hanno Klaasen 2027, Eden Markham 2027, Rassie van der Dussen 2027, and if they are on the bench, I'd rather in 2027 have the conversation of, they should be giving Brevis a chance. They shouldn't be giving Bretsky a chance. But if this is where it's going to go, you're going to have to score more of these to get into that Proteas side, because none of those guys are leaving anytime soon.
No. The one place that we are not short of is white ball batsmen. We really are not short of them, of the options. That is certainly.
Are we not the most successful white ball side in the history of the game outside of tournaments?
Win percentage, yes, we are.
Yes. So this is what we are. But anyway, let's move on to the other results, because the Titans will feel aggrieved because they think they got hosed by the umpires. Boerland, the Gold Rush Boerland, 201 for 7, beating the Warriors 198 for 3 by 198 by 3 wickets. Ayat Ramane 3 for 24 against his former side. Alfred Motua 3 for 34 for the Warriors. Sean van Berg doesn't do it with the ball, but does it with the bat. 49 not out in a key innings to help the Gold Rush Boerland go 2-0 and sit pretty on the top of the table and help their way out of that relegation scrap, which has some very interesting names. We'll talk about that later. Tim, how was this game?
This was a very, very important game if you had one eye on relegation, because there are two teams that are desperate for wins. Obviously, the Dolphins that we know about. The other team is the Warriors. And the Warriors looked like they had done it. And it was a partnership between Sean van Berg and Imran Malik. So I can't remember the exact score, but if those two are batting and they needed something like 60 or 70 to get over the line, that gives you an idea of what the trouble Boerland were in. They lost early wickets, and they never really got going in a very, on paper, a very easy chase.
Boerland
never really found it very easy.
128 for 7.
There we go. 128 for 7.
128 for 7, and that last partnership was just over 70 runs.
There we go.
Between Manak
there we go.
And
that's why.
Sean van Berg.
Yeah, that was crucial. That was crucial for Boerland staying top of the log, and absolutely detrimental to the Warriors' relegation at the moment. It was a huge game. Huge game.
Massive. We're going to talk about the promotion relegation table soon. The Knights on Friday night hosted Western Province in Bloem. Dean Forrester, another 113 not out. He also is knocking on an SAA door. Tiaan van Vuuren, 41 not out and of 18 and 3 for 16. Some nice low order batting to see there. And the Minister of Finance, Malusi Siboto, as they called him here at the Wanderers, 40 of 51 to help the Knights beat the Western Province. They bowled them out for 154. Tim, what's going on with your team there? What's going on?
They're not a good one-day team, dude. I don't know if I said it, but I certainly said it last season, and it's exactly the same team. This team is designed to win the T20 competition and the 40 competition. It does not have the resources for this competition. it relies too much on Eddie Moore, Dane Patterson of the bowling department, and the spin twins of Linder and Simmons. That batting lineup isn't strong enough. It just isn't. Without,
look,
I'm not going to mention
I look at that bowling lineup, and outside of Dane Patterson, and George Linder, it's giving England.
Yeah, it is. It is. But if you look at the team, whatever format they play at the moment, whatever format they play, they are 4 guarantees that are going to be picked in every single game. Eddie Moore,
Peters,
Dane
Verena,
Patterson,
Linder, and Patterson.
No, not Verena, because Verena offered with South Africa. Eddie Moore, Dane Patterson, and the spin twins. Those 4 are picked week in, week out, all of the time. They have to do such a lot of work because they are not getting any rest whatsoever. And there are not enough contributions in the batting department. We need to move away from a couple of players. That's just a fact for different reasons. They are not producing the goods, and that's a problem. So they're not scoring, which means Eddie Moore, who replaced John O'Bird, plays occasionally, Bediam. Those guys have got to contribute, and they don't contribute enough. We don't make enough to defend enough. But on the game itself, again, huge to the relegation. Absolutely huge. The Knights were 133 for 5. The Knights were 133 for 5. You'd argue 133 for 5 against the Province team with the players that I've mentioned. They're probably going to make 200, 220, and they're going to lose the game. That's kind of what has happened over the last couple of years against the Knights. That sort of trajectory. Dion Forrester is such a talent. We talk about Birdsky, we talk about Brevis, we talk about all these other guys. Dion Forrester.
Now we have another opener.
Dion Forrester, the way that he controlled that innings, he's made 200s now, consecutive games, 120 something and 113. Both those times, he's had to build an innings. He hasn't just gone in there and smacked it. He's had to build an innings. The previous game, there was 79 for 4. He had there 133 for 5. Built an innings, and then when you've built an innings, go explosive at the last 10, which is exactly what they did, which got them over 300. Huge win. I don't know where they would be without him. Without him, that'd be where the Warriors are, I think.
Or Western Province. But anyway, let's move on to the final 2 games of the weekend. There was no result between the Dolphins and the Titans. It just rained, but we saw some batting, some really good batting performances from the Dolphins. John Smith with 71 of 61, Jason Smith 50 of 58, and Ethan Bosch 47 of 32. Matthew Bose taking 3 for 33. Just disappointing for the Dolphins because they needed this to help their relegation hopes as well. Northwest taking out the Lions at the Wanderers. They put up a score of 310 for 6, and the Lions couldn't get there. They lost by 65 runs. Matthew Kleinfeld, 64 of 61 for the Dragons. Vian Libba, 80 of 64. Lisiba Ngwepe, 53 not out of 39. Mitch van Buren, 50 of 57. And Connor Esterhuizen, 59 of 52. It was a batter's day at the Wanderers, Tim, but the Northwest just know how to play in this format. They just know.
I was absolutely livid when the Titans threw it away. Absolutely livid. To go from there to ecstasy and this, I wasn't expecting this at all. Because I think I'm perhaps a bit too critical of Northwest because I know the talent they've got. They've got the right kind of players that do both. The Vian Libbers, the Bruan Swarts, those guys are the right kind of players. They can play bits and pieces. And they clicked, and when they click, they're very good. They're very good in this competition. One thing people won't know, perhaps, since the restructuring in List A cricket, so that's 21-22 season, Ian Libba has scored more runs than anybody else in the country in List A cricket.
So Mark Boucher was onto something. They just didn't want to play him.
Perhaps.
It's not us. It's the former coach. But again, another SAA candidate. Like literally, like Libba, Brevis, Forrester, Bretsky. Rix would hurt me if I did that because he's currently playing for the Proteas, but you understand. Stubbs as well, because Stubbs is in and out of that ODI side. And you take them on a world tour. And you go, this is the future. 2031 World Cup, here we come. Because I think, unless those guys retire now, and maybe they should, but you've got 2 years to the World Cup, can these kids come in and give us what the Russies, the Heinrichs, the David Millers have provided for us for an entire time? I don't know. And a Timber, if everyone wants Timber out. But yeah. Okay, let's move to Division 2, just cover some of the results. There were 4 games in Division 2. Mpumalanga Rhinos winning again, beating SA Emerging. I think this was in Pretoria. Letabo Palamuhlaka, 57 of 57. Herman Rolfs. Palamuhlaka is an SA Emerging player, by the way. Herman Rolfs, 2 for 46. Yasar Cook, who's having a very good one-day cup, 83 not out. And Mohammed Mayat, 65 of 54. Good to see good cricket being played in Mpumalanga. Then the next game is the Inyati beating the Impalas. This is a tight game. They won by 7 wickets. Alex Pillay of the of Limpopo, 73 of 99. Cesar Masondo, 76 of 95. Another name we know, Jerome Bossa of the Inyati, again scoring 114. He's having a great season. The Tuskers, KZN Inland, beating the Easterns by 5 wickets. Chris Britt, 64 of 675 for Easterns. Danny Rousseau, 70 of 74. But Cameron Shackleton, 88 of 90. And Michael Erlang, 56 not out of 66, helping the Tuskers get through that game against the Easterns. And then the Northern Cape Heat, they're holding on to their promotion hopes. 145 for 5 against the Badgers. They beat them by 5 wickets. They restricted the Badgers for 142. Hardest for Yoon taking 3 for 29. Romano to Blanche, 4 for 35. Kelly Smuts, 68 of 89. And Cole Abrams, 53 of 53. Runner ball, 53. Tim, good week in Division 2. We're seeing Mpumalanga hold on, Inyati move up to the top of the table, and the Tuskers in Northern Cape fighting it out for that promotion spot.
Yeah, no surprises there. As you said, nice that the Mpumalanga now won back-to-back games. That's good for them. They've got a nice ODI squad. They like to play a positive cricket. And then the 2 big guns, the Tuskers and Northern Cape, making sure they get over the line. There was a little bit of squeaky bum time for Northern Cape. They needed that 53 from Cole Abrams just to make sure there weren't any jitters. But both teams getting over the line, making sure that whoever is going to get promoted goes to the wire.
And we're going to talk about that, going to the wire. But let's look at the logs, and then we'll look at the fixtures. Then we'll have the lovely discussion of who's getting promoted and who's getting relegated. Let's start with Division 2's table. The Inyati sitting up top after 3 games of 2 wins. In second position are the Tuskers on 11 points. The Heat with more bonus points than the other 2. Coming out in third, so that's a really nice fight at the top there. The Mpumalanga Rhinos, 8 points. In fourth, Storm with 1 win, 1 loss, and a no result, and with 7 points in fifth. The Badgers in sixth with 4 points. Then the 2 teams that haven't won, the Impalas as well as SA Emerging, sitting down there at the bottom. And then at the top of the table, you have of Division 1 of the One Day Cup, the Gold Rush Boerland. Last year I was saying that they're going to get relegated, and now look at them. Look at them now. 14 points out of 3 wins, 3 out of 3, the only unbeaten side in the tournament. The Northwest Dragon, Reno Potchefstroom Northwest Dragons, 2 wins and 1 loss with 9 points. The Lions in third with 8 points. The Knights in fourth with 7 points. And it's not a top of the log that you expect to see, but you can see why. The Warriors, Western Province, the Titans, and the Dolphins sitting at the bottom of the One Day Cup table. They need to start winning, and winning as quickly as possible. This is a short competition. It ends very quickly, and you might find yourself looking at relegation and hoping that the final couple of games in the 4-day series will help you move up the table. Remember, it's your position on the table. It's not the wins and losses that you get in competitions. So you need to win games in a competition to move up the table to then get enough points to get up in relegation. That's how it works. Okay. Before we go, Tim's teams of the week. One Day Cup team, Division 1 and Division 2. We're seeing some repeat offenders. Tim, Dion Forrester is a repeat offender. Reza Hendricks, a repeat offender. And then, that's pretty much it, because everyone else has now come in. Welcome to Ruben Hammond, Lisi Bangwepe, Diava Brevis, John Smarts, Vian Libba, Ayat Kamani, Tian Van Vieren for his bat and ball contribution, and Malusi Siboto as well. In Division 2, there's some guys who've come back. Joram Boss has come back. Alex Pillay makes his first appearance in Tim's team of the week. So does Cameron Shackleton. Chris Britz is back in. Cesar Masondo also comes back in. Yasa Cook was here last week. He stays here. Cole Abrahams, Sean Whitehead. Hardest for Yoon was part of the 4-day team of the week. He comes back in. And we've got 2 names, Apio Mnyanda of the Inyati, as well as Temba Maupa of the Rhinos of Mpumalanga. Tim, take us through a couple of guys in your teams of the week.
Yeah, okay. So I won't go into great detail because we have discussed particularly the Division 1 guys in great detail. Just to say that I'm glad Tian Van Vieren is back. His hitting the other day is really what got the notice from me. 41 of 18 balls. I think he's been injured a lot in his career. He's a youngster. You know, I had to be corrected. He's like 23. I think it's a great future of him for her. Hugely. And then Temba Mapapa from Mpumalanga. I think there's something there. I think there's something there that I think he can find an extra yard of pace over the next couple of years. I think if somebody works with him, a fast bowling expert, I'm not a fast bowling expert, but I just think that he could be, I think that he could find an extra yard of pace. And if he does, not only will he be in this team more often, but he will be perhaps moving on to pastures where he could be get a little bit more exposure, because it's unfortunate if he down in Mpumalanga, it's not necessarily that easy to get the exposure that you deserve, which is why I started this to give a little bit of exposure to this place. Those 2 guys stood out for me this weekend. We need fast bowlers. They're fast bowlers, and they did the business.
Yep, and that's why we do this, right? To discover players and to talk about them. So well done, Temba. Well done to everyone who's made the team of the week, Tim's team of the week. Good to see Reza back in there. Like that's another guy who could be in Pakistan. Like we're being serious. Yeah. Right now. Okay, some fixtures to look out for before we talk about promotion relegation. Division 1. You've got 8 games this week. The Titans are in Cape Town to face Western Province. The Lions go down to Durban to face the Dolphins on Wednesday. Boland take on the Knights in Bloom, and the Warriors take on the Dragons in Potch. On Saturday, the Dragons take on Boland in Paarl, and the Knights come up to Johannesburg to take on the Lions. The Dolphins travel down to Cape Town to Western Province for a relegation game, effectively, and the Warriors come up to Pretoria for another relegation game. They just need to pray that there is no rain on the Highveld. It's getting out of hand right now, because the Titans will tell you that they might feel aggrieved. Pretoria Capitals felt aggrieved, but yeah, they might feel aggrieved as well. The next Division 2, I know it says Division 1, but this is a Division 2. The Rhinos host Easterns on Wednesday. The Inyati also host the Tuskers. The Impalas in Limpopo will host the Heat in Polokwane. SA Emerging host the Badgers at the Tuks Oval in Pretoria. On Saturday, the Tuskers host the Badgers in PMB. Easterns host the Heat. It's like the Heat should not even go home. They should find a place in Pretoria to train. The Easterns play the Heat on Saturday. They host them in Willowmore Park. The Inyati host the Rhinos, and not the Rhinos. Sorry, I need to get this right. Just give me a moment, because it can't be the Rhinos. I think it's the Impalas. No, I've got the Impalas. So sorry. Let me just do it. Badgers, Tuskers. Oh, SA Emerging. The Inyati host SA Emerging, and the Rhinos host the Impalas in a Northern Derby. I do apologize for that. Just want to check that so you know that you're not going to East London, and you won't be seeing. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I do apologize. The Inyati host the Rhinos, and the Impalas come host the SA Emerging. So the Impalas play SA Emerging in Polokwane. So that's going to be an interesting game. Apologies for that one. And then finally, what we've all been waiting for. This is the first promotion relegation table of the season. It has the 4-day series, has the T20 series. 4-day series is not completed, but we've got a table there. T20 has been completed, so that's solidified. And then now we're just waiting for the One-Day Cup, but there's the current standing. So the One-Day Cup's going to move up and down. And if you want to stave off relegation, you need to win, like literally start winning games now. So if you look at it, Division 1, let's look at relegation, right? Lions sitting at the top with 37 points. They're not going to be relegated. Boland, right? They only have 3 T20 points. They're currently sitting top of the One-Day Cup block. They need to, if they stay there, that's what they're going to get. But if they start falling down, let's say they move into third, then they're on 19 points. If they move into fourth, then they'll be on 5 and 3, 13 points, which then brings them back into the Knights in Western Province. So you can literally, if you start losing games now, you find yourself in a situation. So that's what it looks like. The Titans sitting in third. Remember, the Titans, the only way they can go up in the One-Day Cup is up. But they've got 10 points currently in the 4-day series, and they've got 10 points in the T20 completed. So they're in third. The Dragons, 4-day series, they need to find a way to get off the bottom, but they need to maintain this position, this third position in the One-Day Cup, in order for them to kind of get themselves up. I think the 7 points from the T20 may be enough, but with the teams there below them, it just might be problematic. The Knights on 12 points, they got 0 points in T20, but they're currently in these next 2 ones sitting in fourth in the 4-day series and in fifth currently in the One-Day Cup. And then Western Province, 2 and 5 in third last position, 9 points. The Warriors, 5 points, currently sitting last in the 4-day series and they only got 2 points in the T20, and they're sitting third last in the One-Day Cup. They need wins. And a team that desperately needs wins, because you might see Keshav Maharaj arrive in East London and see things, is the Hollywood Bets Dolphins. They are sitting in last position, and looking like they're going to be relegated at this point in time. They need to find a way to start getting wins in the One-Day Cup. If they finish last in the One-Day Cup, I'm not sure they can save themselves with 1 round or 2 rounds of 4-day series games left. From a promotion perspective, if you look at the two teams at the top in Division 2, it's the Tuskers, it's the Heat. 3 points separating them. It's going to go down to the wire. Those are the two teams that can actually do it. But if the Inyati find a way to win the 4-day cup, they put themselves in pole position. It is that interesting because they're sitting in third. The Inyati could get promoted. If you listen to me, last week we spoke about the Eastern Cape going under administration. If the Inyati can manage to win the 1-day cup and take that momentum into the 4-day series and win there, they could be in. It might be tough to usurp these two because I think I'm remembering the 4-day the table. It's these two. There's only one team that can win the 4-day series. That's the Heat. But the Tuskers, no, there's two teams. It's the Heat and the Tuskers. The Tuskers need to win big to win, but it's largely solidified this side. So the Heat need to find a way to get more points and get themselves up there. If they move up one position, they're in. And you'll remember the game they played against the Tuskers and they lost. It's probably the reason why they're not sitting at the top of the log. Tim, what do you make of these two, especially the relegation side? Because we've always focused on promotion because it wasn't necessarily a big going down. But Province, Warriors, Dolphins.
This is why I wanted promotion relegation. This is why I am absolutely delighted that we have it. This is the reason, because each game matters. Each game counts for something. Normally at the end of normally at this time of the season, you want to win the 1-day cup. Of course you do. But for a lot of people, the season is over. You've had 2 performances in the 4-day competition. You're not going to win it. It's done. And where you are in the table in terms of the 1-day cup, you're probably not going to win it unless you cause a miracle. So your season in February, middle of February, is over. It's done for. It's done. And I wanted each game to matter. I wanted seasons to go down to the wire. I think it is very important. I'm not going to pick a team, but I think it's very important that the same team does not get relegated from Division 1 season after season after season. That will mean that the gap between the two divisions will get wider and wider if it's the same team over and over again. If we have a difference, it brings just because that team is relegated, it brings the two divisions closer. Might not be due with the start of the cricket, but just because that team is relegated, it means that there's a closer association between the two divisions. On where we are now, you're right to mention Western Province. As much as it hurts, you were absolutely right. They are in free fall in the 1-day cup. I still think it's going to be between the bottom two teams. I think the Knights are playing some really good cricket, and they're playing some good 4-day cricket this season as well. I think that they're still in danger. They still might be, but I think it's going to be the bottom two. I think it's a fight between the Dolphins and the Warriors. I really do think that is the case, and it would be devastating for both regions. Absolutely, I'm not discounting that. But going forward, for the longer term of the game, it will be good for the game. It will be good that we have a different team coming up, a different team going down, and new faces, new players, new tactics. It will benefit the domestic game undoubtedly. It's very interesting.
No, it is. And we've been waiting for this thing for a while because I've had my suspicions and I've been looking at the Dolphins and the Warriors with side eyes because something's fundamentally gone wrong, and it's not a good thing for Quinton Friend in his first year to be sitting at the bottom of the table at this point in time. It kind of feels like it's an indictment on his coaching, and I don't think that's the case, but he hasn't been able to put out a team that can win games. And that is the frustrating part. And the frustration is games that are getting rained out like Sunday, right? They were actually playing well. But it is now squeaky bum time. Every game matters. And the great thing is that the games that matter have the biggest names. And the funny part about it is this: when we come back from the Champions Trophy, some of the Proteas will be back. Will these teams call on their Proteas for one last push in that 4-day series? Because my word, if I'm Keshav Maharaj, I am coming out to show up and show out for the Dolphins. If I am Tony DeZorzi, I'm opening the batting because, quite frankly, Eddie Moore needs a partner, right? And if I'm Nandre Berger and I'm fit, I don't think he'll be fit, but Bjorn Hendricks, guys need to come back. Guys need to come back. If I'm Tristan Stubbs, I'm playing for the. But Tristan always does this anyway. He'll be playing for the Warriors.
Tristan does. He's a good boy. He's a good lad.
He's that type of guy. It's all these other ones. These other ones, right? And if I am Heino Klaassen and the Titans need a little bit of breathing room between them and everyone else, then they could do it. But it's going to be interesting. It's setting us up. And this week with those fixtures, it's going to be like that Warriors-Titans fixture. Now that the Warriors can win. The Titans are not a great one-day side. They can win that game. But, it's a big but, will the weather come through? It's been raining up here. But anyway, look, Tim, this is what we've wanted. We've wanted urgency. We've wanted context. Here's the context. And now, even in Division 2, there's a lot of context. And I love it. The Heat and the Tuskers going at it. And the Heat need to find a way. They need a hope the Tuskers somewhere slip up. If you slip up once, you can find yourself in trouble. And it better not be to an SA merging, because that would be problematic. That would be very bad.
Yeah. That's right.
The Heat were here before.
Exactly. They're gonna have. That's the thing. They're gonna have the knowledge that we've been there before. We've had 1 foot in Division 1, and we let it slip. It slip. They cannot afford to let it slip at this point. It will be very interesting because they advertised for a new coach. I don't know if you saw that. So whatever happens, that's going to be very, very interesting. What happens with Northern Cape? They advertised on their social media.
Wait, is Cape? No, not JP. Who is it?
No, I don't know if they asked him to reapply, because they might have just said, listen, because I think what happened was after the Warriors assistant who we spoke to a couple of years ago, Mark Charlton. So he resigned at the start of the season, and I think they got Dean Cowles. I think they got him in as to see the season out. I think that's what happened. It wasn't like he got a 2-year contract. It was like, see the season out, and then they will reassess. It seems like I don't know the specifics. I just saw it on the social media that they advertised for a head coach. So they may have a new head coach, whether they are promoted or not next season.
Okay. Let's call it, Tim. What a great show. Good luck to the Proteas. Good luck to one-day cup teams. Good luck to if your team's in relegation, go watch them. Go support them. Go push them over the line. If your team's there to be promoted, please go push them over the line, because the one-day cup is what it is. It's an opportunity for people to get into stadiums and watch their teams, the future stars, play cricket. But most importantly, good luck to the Proteas tomorrow. Please bring it home. Win. You can beat Australia, and please just get that W. Let's beat England as well on Saturday. Good luck for that as well. And Temba, another semi-final, my man, and then another final, and then this one we'll win. Because I was hoping the World Test Championship would be the first final we win, but if you can win a Champions Trophy in between, we'll take that. But we'll talk about that next week, because we'll be talking semi-finals next week. We'll also be talking more of the one-day cup as we get into the final week. It's a one-round one-day cup. We're into the final week of this incredible tournament, and we try to figure out who's going home and who's staying up and who needs to find some English player in an off season to come and help them in a 4-day competition to kind of help them avoid relegation. Outside of that, from myself and Tim, it's goodbye. Remember, please follow us on X. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching right now. Also, Apple Podcast, Spotify, thank you for growing that community. And please, lastly, just buy us some coffee at buymeacoffee.com/4quarter podcast. Any and every contribution is appreciated. Outside of that, it's goodbye and lesale kakahiso.